none of the affected counties, were notified of the consent order agreement, which didn't surprise Gallagher. Of course, you have Thanksgiving weekend and then you got the holidays, and nobody's interested in talking about bad chemical stuff when you have to go shopping and stuff, and all the public comment is due by December 21st. So all of the public comments are due by December 21st, and the majority of people didn't even know about this consent order because they buried the news right before Thanksgiving. So obviously, as she says, obviously they did that for a reason, because they don't want people to know about it. So they don't get a lot of public comments, and they could just say, case closed. And by the way, Chemours DuPont has donated to politicians in the state legislature in North Carolina. Shocking. In an even more stomach-turning development, this part will blow your mind. In an even more stomach-turning development, the lead counsel for the mass class action lawsuit against Chemours was granted the ability to hire his own experts to test contamination levels at Chemours' Fayetteville facility. So that's good that the lawyers suing Chemours were granted by a judge to hire their own testers to go test the contamination, because yes, the government is actually relying, they do this routinely, on the chemical companies that are contaminating the water to do the tests and to tell the government what the contamination levels are. That's like asking somebody who burns down a house, hey, we'd like your consultation on rebuilding this house. But the judge ordered the results to be, well, gee golly Jim, left under seal. No, I'm not making it up. A judge is allowing them to hire their own testers, go test, but the results can't be made public. Like, what the fuck is that? Unbelievable. So who the hell knows if they find extremely high levels, much higher, by the way, than Chemours found, because you're literally asking the company who has contaminated the water. It's like asking an organization to investigate itself. It's like asking a government to investigate itself, which, by the way, is what happened in Michigan after the Flint water crisis. So you're asking the chemical company to go test the water contamination, to go test the ground soil, to test the air, to test whatever is around that factory, and then you grant permission to independent testers to go do it, but then, no, it's going to be kept sealed. You can't release the numbers. Gallagher responded to me in response to the judge saying it had to be left sealed. She literally screamed into the phone, "What?" She incredulously told me in response to the judge-ordered secrecy, adding that the lead counsel for the major class action lawsuit told her he'd love to share what the results were, but he's not allowed to. But that it was, quote, very important for you guys to know the results, a.k.a. They're fucking bad. So he's not legally allowed to tell them the results, but he kind of gave a hint, very important for you guys to know the results. I mean, this is not a democracy. This is corporate capitalism. It's totalitarianism, frankly. So here you have a multi-billion-dollar corporate conglomerate carelessly dumping cancer-causing chemicals into major drinking water streams, air, and soil for 4 decades, only to receive the putrid punishment of a $12 million fine, the ability to continue to operate largely unregulated nationwide, because Gen X, these chemicals, they're not regulated by the EPA. No obligation to pay for affected North Carolina residents' medical bills, past, present, or future, and they get to enjoy their Christmas while millions of everyday people in North Carolina are left to wonder if their health problems could be a result of water they drank or air they breathe. And although there doesn't seem to be as many visible health problems as in, say, Flint, Michigan after the 2014 water switch to the Flint River, health problems are beginning to pop up in increasing numbers across the affected North Carolina counties, including kidney problems, male and female reproductive issues, thyroid deficiencies, disease doctors coin as rare, unusually high cholesterol in children, and other autoimmune illnesses. On the thyroid issue in particular, in particular, the below incident rate for North Carolina thyroid from 2010 to 2014 map is instructive. And I know it's hard to read. It's the best image I could get. But if you see in the bottom right corner, those red counties, red meaning the highest issues of thyroid problems, that is the path of the Cape Fear River. Those bottom right, that is the path of the Cape Fear River, and that is where you have the most thyroid problems from 2010 to 2014. You think that's a coincidence, folks? Now that people are learning more about the decades-long contamination, people are beginning to connect the dots, Gallagher said, as they talk to each other about their health problems that they now suspect came from Gen X. Quote, they should be shut down, Worrell, who I spoke with earlier in the story, told Status Quo. What really pisses me off is knowing that they are about to get another corporate tax break in North Carolina next year. It's dropping to 2.5%. So not just Chemours, all corporations, they're lowering the corporate tax rate to 2.5%, down, I believe, from 3%. Our leaders, including the Democratic governor, keep bragging about our state being #1 for business. Well, I'm sorry, but a state shouldn't be judged by how well the corporations are doing. It should be judged by how well the people are doing. On that, they have failed us and have allowed us to be poisoned for profit. And I will just read for you. If you want us to go out the field and cover things like this, become a member. Click on Become a Member and look at the options. I don't want to beg, but I'm not beyond begging. This is how we are going to grow our news network. I don't mean to brag, folks. This is very humble. But I was able to do this report in about an hour and a half. It's not because I'm amazing, but when there's a will, there's a way. And fortunately, since I've been out in the country so much, I have a lot of sources in quite a lot of places. Because there is no corporate media that goes out into these communities and talks to residents. There is no corporate media that goes out into communities and develops relationships with activists. There is no corporate media that goes out into these areas, rolls up their sleeves, and actually finds out what the truth is. Not what the corporations tell them is the truth, but actually find out what the truth is by talking to affected residents, by, dare I say, doing some research, and by talking to activists. That is how you find truth. Straight up. We do not have the necessary funding at this moment to go out to communities like this and do the reporting that I think needs to be done. Can me going down to North Carolina or me going down to other areas stop water contamination from happening? I'm not God. I'm not going to make promises I can't keep. But I can tell you one thing. It has been shown, and I hope you've seen it before, when myself, when other journalists on the ground, when Status Quo does go cover things, it does put more attention on these stories. It does demand answers from politicians. It does demand answers from corporations. And sometimes, once in a blue moon, change does happen. But change isn't going to happen if there are no journalists on the ground to cover these things. If there are no journalists on the ground to demand action. It's just not going to happen.